Karim Khan, Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, the ICC. Welcome to our screen, sir.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam. I'd like to start by your briefing to the Council today on Sudan. It's the event of the moment, and I would like to go back and mention what you just said about that 8 months ago when you briefed the Council, things has deteriorated even further. And I would like to say there are 4 arrest warrants against wanted high officials in Sudan, including President Omar Bashir, Ahmed Haroun, Minister of State for Interior, Abdurrahim Hussein, who is the Minister for National Defense, and of course Abdullah Benda, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Justice and Equality Movement. You, in 29th of January statement to the Council, you said the climate of impunity and outbreak of violence that followed in April 2023 are related because of the presence of the impunity. You also described the progress of your office, that some progress took place in a bleak place. That's what you told the Council today. Why are you optimistic, as someone has said to you, when we have 4 warrants, none of them executed? Will more warrants, arrest warrants, and more investigations be different this time?
Well, firstly, I'm not optimistic. I think we're in a very bleak place as humanity when we survey the different conflicts around the world. In April last year, the new outbreak of hostilities took place in Sudan as a whole and also in Darfur, pitching the General Burhan's Sudanese armed forces and General Hemeti's rapid support forces against each other. And what we have seen is an increasing targeting and deaths and misery to children, to women and to men. And it's lamentable. I said in July last year that I was also going to try my best and focus the scarce resources we have on the events since April. But unfortunately, we see from a multiplicity of sources that so many people are dying and are being killed and raped. And it's tragic that in Sudan, whenever innocent people are killed or are targeted, it's a tragedy. But we have allegations that Arab Muslims who say La ilaha illallah, who say Assalamu alaikum, are killing black African Masalit community who also do their salat, who also say Assalamu alaikum. And there seems to be no humanity in the allegations we're seeing of rape, of crimes against children, and moving things forward. So I mentioned to the Council just now, Talal, that when I went to Adre last year and I briefed the Council from Chad, I went right to the border of Darfur and I sat on the floor.
We were with you.
Yes, and I sat on the floor and I spoke to Darfuris, men and women separately. And one man said exactly this, and I reminded the Council respectfully. They said, yes, you have applied, you're investigating the events since April. Why are you optimistic? If you apply for warrants, maybe judges issue warrants, why will things change? And I don't have a good answer to that, because states must care to fulfill the Rome Statute obligations. What I said to the Council just now, if there is a change, it was not because Darfuri lives matter more today than they did 20 years ago. There's been generational suffering for the people of Darfur. It may be because of realization that the dots are joined between what I call this trapezium of chaos, between Libya on the Mediterranean down to the Red Sea of Sudan, across to sub-Saharan Africa, the Sahel region, even to the Atlantic Ocean. Look at Boko Haram in Nigeria. And if there is not some more concentrated, concerted, strategic effort from member states of the United Nations and the Security Council to try to bring a ceasefire, to try to calm the fires of hatred, I told the Council, unfortunately, I'm compelled to the conclusion that a Pandora's box will be opened that will unleash ethnic, racial, religious, political, commercial interests that no state, and not even the Security Council, can put that wild genie back in the bottle. So it requires timely action, and unfortunately I haven't seen enough of that concentrated effort by the Security Council, by the African Union, European Union, or by Sudanese authorities themselves on the RSF and SAF side.
When you speak about some progress achieved by your office, can you tell us what progress is?
Well, the progress is, despite this very difficult environment of an active conflict, very difficult to go in when the bullets are flying and bombs are being hurled by different parties. We managed to go to the Port Sudan. We had engagement with the government of Sudan, the engagement with General Burhan's Sudanese Armed Forces and that part of the Transitional Authority. They've given us information, they've given answered some requests. We've had very good missions, long-term missions in Chad, engaging, and thank you to the Chadian authorities, engaging with the IDPs, the people that have fled for their lives, that are eyewitnesses to this persecution that seems to have been taking place, that is still taking place, and that is helping us build cases. And we've also leveraged technology, using technology to look at and analyze and piece together video, audio files, so we can pierce the veil of impunity to see who's responsible. And what I told the council is, inshallah, I hope that by the next report we'll be in a position to announce warrant applications. And what I was telling all sides, SAF and RSF, every person with a gun, every commander on any side in any hostility has responsibilities. They must cooperate.
Including the leaders?
Absolutely, including the leaders. You have obligation to cooperate, to show your bona fides, to show that you're not supporting impunity or supporting these reigns of terror on babies, on children, on women, on old, and on civilians. And you do that by cooperating with court orders. So whether it's surrendering people like Ahmad Haroon, whether it's providing information, whether it's giving clear orders to your subordinates that hands off civilians, hands off the innocent, protect those that have to be protected under international humanitarian law. These are measures that even at this late stage may mitigate the analysis that we are seeing by way of the evidence that we are looking into.
You have made an appeal to the stakeholders to cooperate and to take urgent action to put an end to the crimes, international crimes that are being committed in Darfur. What do you realistically expect from the stakeholders? After all, they are the people who are financing, providing arms to the parties to commit these crimes.
Well, firstly, stakeholders is a very broad family. It deals with the ICC, my office, the court. It deals with civil society. We're engaging very well with civil society, and I applaud their efforts. I think it starts with Sudan. Those warring factions are required by virtue of the Security Council resolution to cooperate with my office. But the council has responsibilities, not to talk. I said it today. There's no point. It's a great honor to brief the council, but not to turn up twice a year to have a couple of hours focus on Sudan and then it's business as usual.
Is there any hope of the council showing teeth to these culprits in Sudan?
Well, Allah knows best, but if the charter is to mean anything, the council, as a fact, and this is what the UN Charter says, it has primary responsibility for maintaining international peace and security. This is why today I mentioned what are the enforcement mechanisms available to the council to quench the fires of hatred, to calm things down, that allow other options to take place. That can be truth commissions, that can be other accountability mechanisms, it can be the ICC, but other bespoke solutions are possible. But the first thing is to stop the killing, stop the rapes, stop the targeting of babies. And what I was very clear to the council about is this indifference, this idea that the bandwidth of the council is too preoccupied with Ukraine or Palestine or the Rohingya or all these other problems in the world, so that we fail and we render invisible the people of Darfur. That must not come to pass. No people should be viewed as too poor, too insignificant, not to be worthy of the protection of the law. And I said in my closing remarks, this tests my office and the court and the council, but it will test all member states as well, to show that all human life matters equally. Because at the moment around the world, your viewers will say, well, we don't buy it, because we see in our own lives, we see in the big power struggles, in major powers, that some lives matter more than others, this reality, this lived experience from so many of your listeners, we can't say it's not true. We have to then rise to the challenge by applying the law more equally than we have over the last decades. And that is on all of us. And the ICC is not a silver bullet. I said this very clearly to Lal. It's not a silver bullet to solve all the world's ills. It needs to be backed by power. And power in the world is represented principally by the Security Council, by states with those law enforcement mechanisms of armies and of police to come up with solutions that puts not their own interests first, that puts people, civilians first, and view them sincerely with fear of God, as if these civilians in Darfur are our own family, are our own children and family members. Unless we do that, we're going to get further and further violences and further awful pictures of death and destruction.
I noticed that you welcomed the cooperation that you're getting from the government of Sudan and the Sudanese army. Yet you called upon all parties to the war, and in particular the rapid support forces and the Sudanese army, to end, and the allied, of course, armed groups that works with them, to cease further violations of human rights and international humanitarian law in Sudan. Now, if you're thanking the government of Sudan, my understanding as a common man, that they are not violating the human rights and the humanitarian international law. Otherwise, doesn't cooperating mean desisting from committing such crimes?
Yes, well, I said that today to the council. First of all, it's only appropriate that I would not have gone into Sudan, the team would not have gone into Port Sudan, but for the agreement of General Burhan. But I was very clear to the council that all parties, including the SAF of General Burhan and the RSF of General Mahdi, have independent, freestanding obligations to comply with IHL. So it doesn't mean that we're only looking at one side, or that one side are angels and one side are on the other side of the moral compass. Every side has responsibilities. Every side have it within their power to come in the crosshairs of the ICC by breaching international law. Both sides have the opportunity to fly the flag of justice by complying, not with my request, but by international humanitarian law that forbids children being targeted and women being raped. And I think that's applicable to every side in every conflict, and certainly in Darfur.
I would like to move to the issue of Palestine. You have, on the 20th of May, requested the issual of 5 arrest warrants from the pretrial chamber, 3 against Palestinian leaders of Hamas, and 2 against the Prime Minister of Israel and his Minister of Defense. 2 of the Palestinians have now passed away. Hamad Deif passed on the 13th. He was killed by Israeli bombing of Khan Yunis on the 13th of July. And on the 31st, Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of the political wing of Hamas and the political bureau, has been murdered in Tehran. Does that make any changes to your request to the pre-trial chamber for the issue of arrest warrants, and does it speed the process?
Well, first thing is, are the deaths confirmed? It does appear that Mr. Haniyeh is no more, and that he was killed in Iran, so he's dead. But we need to verify the information, and of course, if people are dead, the practice of the court is not to issue any warrants for dead people, and so an application from my office, if that is confirmed, will be made at the appropriate point.
People in the Middle East are very nervous now, especially in countries like Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and Israel, of course, even Iraq and the Gulf. They're nervous about a possible retaliation by Iran to the killing of Mr. Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. And the expected retaliation from Iran is expected by reports very, very soon. Now, does the ICC has any views in the killing of a wanted person, of a political leader, on the territory of another country? Do you have any jurisdiction in that effect?
Well, we have no jurisdiction. I mean, our jurisdiction is limited by the statute in terms of crimes committed on the territory of a state party. Iran is not a state party in relation to Hania, or committed by the nationals of state parties, and it seems in relation to Hania, it's not a state party national that is involved in that particular killing. The wider question is what's my view? My view is in every situation, the rule of law should reign supreme and people should surrender if warrants are issued. In this situation, applications have been filed. We're waiting for the judges to determine the matter, but in all situations, everywhere in the world, whenever there's a warrant, my strong advice is people should surrender to those warrants and allow due process to take its course.
Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant, can you tell us the importance of the United Kingdom government's plans to not to oppose the International Criminal Court's application for an arrest warrant against the Israeli leaders?
Well, the court is now seized of about 60 applications from different organizations and states that it must determine. But as you rightly say, the new government of the United Kingdom has indicated that it is not filing any observations or amicus brief in relation to Palestine. I think the good news is that from the statements of the current Foreign Secretary David Lammy and the current Prime Minister, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, they've been very clear that international law obligations must trump everything else. These institutions that are set up that preserve prosecutorial independence and the role of the judges, if they mean anything, if they are to mean anything, they must be respected. And I think they've indicated in Parliament, in terms of David Lammy and the Prime Minister, that they will leave these matters to be determined in the normal course in the crucible of the courtroom. And I think that's only right. Anybody who wants the law can't have an a la carte menu. You can't pick and choose the law you like or the decisions you like. You must accept all of it. Otherwise, all of it goes down the garbage.
But doesn't that prove that the decision has been political? Because the last government has the same laws in front of it, and now a new government comes in, and it becomes a political decision. This actually strengthens the argument that decisions nowadays are taken on political basis.
Well, states, of course, are political entities. States are parties to their own statutes. States elect the judges and states elect the prosecutor and all the rest of it. But different lawyers have different views. And I think the current United Kingdom government have a new Attorney General, and they have a new Foreign Minister, there's a new Prime Minister, and they have new thinking in terms of the application of the rule of law. To that extent, I think it's welcome. I think international institutions are helpful, not unhelpful. If one wishes the world to be governed by a set of principles that are non-political, that are above national interest or regional interest, I think this is very much something your viewers will understand. I think we need to do much better, but in principle, that's the only way for the future of humanity.
My last question, time's caught up with us. In the beginning, before you applied for their 5 arrest warrants, a lot of pressure and threats and intimidation was directed against you, your staff, and your office. What's the situation now that you applied for the arrest? Has the threats and intimidation continued? Has it stopped? Has it evolved?
No, I think continuation of threats is commonplace. Of course, not even against myself or my staff or the institution, but even against family members. But we're not new to this. There were warrants against me. There are warrants against me and other judges issued by the Russian Federation. But we can't be concerned in this job with the personal comfort of ourselves. We must understand we are servants. Whenever we have the opportunity to serve, we should have fear of God. We should try to do our best. We'll make mistakes. And realize that there are people out there around the world, whether the people of Sudan or the people of Palestine, the hostages that are in Gaza, that want the law to apply equally. And we're not seeing enough of it. But it's very selfish or narrow-minded for me to be concerned about myself when so many others have nothing to cling to except this belief or hope over experience that the law can be meaningful in their own lives. And that's something that we must work with together with your viewers, with states. Everybody else should demand a world governed by law, equally applied, not by political intrigue, threats, or by self-interest.
ICC Prosecutor Karim Khan, as you put it to the Council, that the climate of impunity is driven by the belief that human lives do not matter and that we are not paying attention to what's happening. Thank you for keeping the lights and the spotlight shining on these very, very important files and very sad situation both in Sudan and in Palestine. In this bleak time, I thank you for your efforts and thank you for talking to us.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you,
you,
sir.
God bless.